Welcome to Data Forward, the podcast that keeps you ahead in the fast-evolving world of enterprise AI and data management. We bring you expert insights, actionable strategies, and the latest trends to help you stay on top. Ready to shape the future of data? Let's Data Forward.
Hi, welcome to another Data Forward. I'm your host, Ramon Chen. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Excel Data, and I'm delighted to have with me today Gabriel Charvat, who is Vice President of Data Quality Insights at Dun Bradstreet. Welcome, Gabriel.
Thanks, Ramon. Great to be here.
Well, we're really excited to have you join us today because we're going to talk about modernizing operational data quality. It's a topic that's very prevalent these days. People are always continuously looking to improve their data quality. And you at the Dun Bradstreet team have really been at the forefront of developing practices operationally and using new technologies to improve data quality, but also improving how you think about data quality in terms of processes and so forth. But first, can you introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about your responsibilities at Dun Bradstreet?
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks. I'm excited about the conversation. So I've worked with data for about 20 years now. What I realized is that all of my jobs, whether they were product analyst, fraud analyst, FP&A analyst, I was always analyzing data. And so I was involved with databases. And they were gradually increasing in size as my jobs changed. So I had larger and larger amounts of data. And what I really loved was the data itself. And so I started to specialize in data management. Then about 3 years ago, I was working at one of the large consumer credit reporting agencies. And I was leading a team of data stewards. We were responsible for data quality, data subject matter expertise, change control, access control, all sorts of things related to data. And I got a call from Dun Bradstreet saying they wanted to have someone to come and lead a team called Data Quality Insights. And it was pretty attractive to me because it was one job instead of four. So that was enough to get me in the door. And then I was also, of course, pretty impressed with Dun Bradstreet. I'm sure your listeners are all familiar with D&B, but if not, it's a 183-year-old global data and analytics company. Obviously did not start out calling itself a DNA company. It was a publishing company. Over the years, became very well known for credit reporting for businesses. Right now, we have a little over 600 million businesses in our database, covering data from over 220 countries.
Fantastic. And then, so in this day and age of data products, everybody's talking and excited about data products. I would say Dun Bradstreet is the ultimate data products company, since that's what you sell is data, and it has to be of extremely high quality. And your role is a linchpin to developing these data products.
Absolutely. Yeah. I like to say we don't sell pipes, we sell water. So focusing in, obviously everything is about the pipelines and everything is about, how does the water get from place to place or the data from place to place. But what our customers actually experience is the quality of the data. It's the data itself.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit about sort of how you've evolved data quality at Dun Bradstreet. So you're using new technologies. Data observability is certainly one of them. How has that changed how you think about data quality and made it more operational in nature? And also, how has it been modernized?
Yeah, absolutely. So 3 years ago, when I first started considering this job, I asked about how are you invested in data quality? People, process, technology, right? So obviously, people was pretty obvious that they were hiring a lead for data quality. And I found out that there's a team, Data Quality Insights, which had at the time 10 full-time, highly tenured data analysts and business analysts, people focused full-time on data quality, monitoring and measuring and finding problems and reporting problems and fixing problems. And then as far as technology, we had at the time one of the larger, well-known data quality tools, part of a bigger stack, was monolithic. At the time, I was pretty excited to use it. I found later reasons not to be, and we'll probably go more into that. I'm sure you'll have questions about that. And then finally, process. I asked about what is the process. And even then, D&B has a really state-of-the-art, best-in-class data quality framework. And that's what really sold me. And I'm sure we'll get a chance to go into detail about D&B's global data quality framework. But suffice to say, the right thinking was in place. So it was become a matter of how do we utilize those people and tools to get to the outcomes we really want, which is that our customers never find a problem before we do.
That's really ideal, right? Because given how much of a core Dun Bradstreet data is to the running of every single large corporation on the planet, or every corporation on the planet doing business with other companies, the information is so essential to how they make decisions and how they execute their business. You're even regulated by the FTC in certain ways because it's such important data and you have to maintain compliance. So since you touched upon it, let's talk a little bit about sort of what you found that was not so good in the traditional sort of monolithic legacy data quality methods. What were the challenges and what were the types of things that really made you and the team at Dun Bradstreet start to think we have to modernize this?
Sure. So a lot of it had to do with kind of the mini pipeline of getting ready to do data quality. If a given data quality rule or condition that we wanted to check used, say, 6 data elements, this data would go and take just those 6 elements and make a very tall and narrow data set just to evaluate that rule, which ended up using a lot of storage. It used a lot of processing. Whereas one of the nice benefits of Excel data is the idea of a policy, which it's still not native in a pipeline, but that's okay. We don't have that need as a use case. But what it does is it takes all of the related rules and it allows us to customize a group of rules that have the same elements and really sort of idealize the way that we access that information and scale up massively the speed and cost. Scales down the cost, scales up the speed of what it takes for us to execute those rules.
So cost and scale, very, very important. Cost, nobody has unlimited funds, so being able to do it efficiently and at a lower cost is the main thing. But the volume of data, given the lifeblood of Dun & Bradstreet creating data products is the data itself, the speed to onboarding data sources and the ability to insert these policies and rules really dictates how much value and competitive differentiation Dun & Bradstreet can deliver, right?
Yes, absolutely. So again, the cost is not just in money and processing, it's also the time it took us to execute. And with data quality, you need to have, you don't want a long lag between observing the data quality and finding out the information. And we literally went from about 12 days down to less than 1 day to run a full set of observations. And then to your point, building new, how do we grow quickly? And in the old tool, it required putting in requests to developers, just to level set a little bit. When I think of data quality rules, I should probably define that. A lot of your listeners will know what's meant. But in our data quality framework, we think about what is the data and then what is quality. So what is the data? What are the domains of data and what are the critical data elements within that data? Look, all the data is important, but some data is more important than other data, right? And so we focus our Data Watch program onto the most critical data elements. And then on the other side, what is quality? We use 8 dimensions of data quality. And I'd be happy to go into a little more detail about the dimensions if you like. But basically, what a rule is you take the data and you take the dimension and you build that into what should this data be like? And we think of it 3 ways. I kind of stole this from classic data modeling: conceptual, logical, and physical. So conceptual is what we hear from our subject matter experts, the domain data owners, the people who basically say, I'm an expert on this kind of data, and this is how good the data should be to be fit for purpose for a customer. And logical is where my team jumps in, and we would convert what they said, which is generally a sentence in English. And this element should have this performance for that dimension. And so we would convert that into pseudocode. We would actually dig into what is the concepts that are important, what are the assumptions they're probably making, find out really in a good detail and write a logical rule. And in the old days, to finally answer your question, we would then write a set of requirements and deliver it to a developer. And then we would wait for that to be finished. And if the developer had questions, sometimes the iteration between answering those questions or the developer not asking the questions, writing the rule, finding later it wasn't working the way that it was supposed to, or getting all the way up to where we're finished, asking the subject matter expert to take a look at it, and they say, "Oh, that's not what I meant anyway."
Yeah, exactly.
So what we do now, because of the abilities of Excel data to sort of enable business people to build data quality rules, is we still have a great group of devs because we're dealing with a massive amount of data, but we have a partnership with them. So like I said, my team is highly technical business people, and our tech partners are very data savvy tech partners. That's the developers, the QAs. And now what we have is developers within my team. So they are still business analysts, data analysts, but they are developing data quality rules using Excel data, building policies. And it takes one link out of the chain of communication. It reduces the amount of confusion. And then because of that, to your point, increases that speed to deploying a new rule.
So just as a high level of contrast with the previous use of traditional data qualities and the translation process, which was involved between converting the logical to the actual code, what's the level of acceleration? Could you quantify as an example? Is it gone from weeks to hours? What's the sort of level of acceleration?
It really depends on if there's already a policy that's using the element that we need to measure. So it also depends on the complexity of the rule. We use quite a few of the out-of-the-box Excel data rules, but the vast majority, we actually write custom rules. The level of detail and our data structures kind of require that we build our rules. Now, it's really great. We're able to write code snippets and put them right into the Excel data tool. So it is much easier than it used to be. But to answer your question, there's a huge range in the past. So depending on the number of iterations, a single rule could take over a month. Now, not of continuous work, but while you're waiting on each question to get answered, et cetera. Now we can get not counting QA, right? Not counting review. We can get a new rule that's a very simple rule that uses an existing policy less than a day.
So a month to a day, 30 days in a month, 30x improvement is pretty significant.
Yeah. We still have the challenge of, making sure that we have really good requirements delivered. But when you're passing those requirements between two teams instead of three, it's massively improved.
Massively improved. And then also certain level of reusability is key for being able to accelerate that. A library of rules, sets of rules. Dun Bradstreet is at the forefront of making sure that those types of things are reusable, repeatable, so that you can leverage what you've done.
Absolutely. Yeah. The rules library in Excel data was one of, I think, an area that we collaborated. I don't know. You probably had input from other customers of yours as well. Yeah. But we basically brought the idea that if a logical rule exists, which says, sales values for businesses should have these characteristics. And I want to implement that in certain observation point in the data supply chain or on a certain source, for example. You have to implement that physical rule. You go write the rule, you get the exact element names, you go interact with the data itself, and you write that physical rule. what the rules library allows us to do is take that logical kind of IP of what the rules logic really is, and package it in a way that allows any source owner to expand and scale up to utilize a rule that was developed for my program, which is global and enterprise level. But we make that information available for all of the 30,000 sources that are coming through 220 countries. So the idea would be, and we've been working together on this, the idea would be to have all that logical information available, so it sort of democratizes this idea of data quality measurement, and I don't have to go write 30,000 rules.
Exactly. And that's been tremendous collaboration with yourself and our development team and our product team, which we really appreciate, by the way. Thank you very much for your partnership, because I think a lot of the ideas from a stalwart company like Dun Bradstreet, like I mentioned at the beginning, really the ultimate data products company, is really paving the way for how people are thinking about the data fabric, data products, modernizing data quality and operationalizing it. Well, one of the additional things that I know you mentioned is this notion that the teams previously were a little bit sort of unhappy with the traditional way of doing things because the coverage just never seemed to be good enough in terms of the range of things that got captured by traditional data quality methods. Now people are a little bit more enthusiastic about that. In fact, to the point that I think you mentioned to me that gamification is some of the concept that Dun & Bradstreet has introduced about data quality. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, absolutely. So just to level set a little bit, I'll talk about our data supply chain and who are the various players that are playing. Yep. So when I talk about the global data supply chain at D&B, this is after 220 different countries, operations teams have submitted their information. And so coming from all those markets, it enters what we call the global data supply chain. Where obviously some processing happens to make the data ready for product, right? And so at the beginning and at the end of the global data supply chain are two of our most important observation points. Obviously, all of those operations teams are also doing monitoring in their own supply chain. And our product teams are monitoring the data itself there in the specific ways that are meaningful for their customers. But where I focus is on this central area where all of the data funnels through. Now, I'm observing there, but if we want to positively impact the products and customers, we have to fix data far, far to the left. And so the question of gamification is how to drive the motivation of those local market teams. And of course, data quality is of course important, and they've always cared about data quality. But the amount that they care really ramped up when we started to make them compete with each other. And so what we're able to do is for all of the rules that we measure, we break out a level 1, level 2, or level 3, where level 3 is unacceptable, level 2 is acceptable, but still could improve, and level 1 is our minimum quality standard. So we work with those rules at a market level, a country level, and we've created a leaderboard where those countries can compete with each other to improve from a baseline of, this is how good their data was at the beginning of the year. Throughout the year, they compete with each other, and it's proved pretty remarkable because you're going from having one stakeholder that cares about the data quality, and that's the data people in the market, to also really having all the stakeholders, because all of them want to compete against each other, and especially the data leadership goes, this other country is moving ahead of us in the leaderboard. No, what can we do? And so that drastically improves our ability to get investment to fix that data to the left at the beginning of the supply chain.
What additional things can you see now? You've been in production and operation for quite a while now. Are there certain additional trends and patterns that you're seeing that have come to light since you've been able to sort of modernize your data quality processes?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll answer it in two ways. One is we work in a very traditional data quality structure. It's very much about we have a cycle in our framework. We listen and monitor, which means we really think about our client's experience with the data, our own internal experience with data, and then we define standards. So that second phase of the framework is all about defining the standards for what quality should be. It's very human driven, right? The third part of the framework is where my team interacts and we really create the rules we measure. And we also have a suite of dashboards where we get insights for that data. And the fourth is the team who takes the insights we've created and goes and works with the markets and uses that leaderboard and interacts with them in order to get data improvement plans over the line. And finally, it returns to the listen and monitor because it's an infinite loop, this framework, where we take all the experience of everything we learned during the year, every data quality problem that's occurred internally or externally. We use that to build the next year's standards and we can continue the cycle. So like I said, it's very human driven, and there's very much that we go and find the unknowns that we know how to measure, the known unknowns, right? And what we're really wanting to see more and more is how are we looking for unknown unknowns? How do you look for generative AI or predictive rule writing that's instead of a human saying, I know about my subject, I'm going to define this rule. How are we moving to a place where we are evaluating the data itself to define what would be anomalies, what would be types of conditions that are, say, better in one place than in another place, and look at those thresholds that I said earlier, level 1, level 2, and level 3. Define them at a much more granular level that can drive the right amount of improvement in each market, rather than expecting all of the markets to improve at the same level, right? And
exactly.
Not every country needs to improve in the same ways. So I believe Excel Data acquired an AI company, and between what you got from them and also your own analytics team, you're building features that I'm pretty excited about in order to help us define rules rather than us telling the tool what we want to do.
Yeah, it's all about, it's been 20 minutes into the conversation. It's the first time we're talking about AI, which is amazing. Right?
That is amazing.
It is amazing. I think we broke a record somewhere. But yeah, so I think AI is fantastic. And I know Dun Bradstreet has your AI labs that are keeping yourselves at the forefront. And so I'm sure our listeners who are all probably Dun Bradstreet customers are really happy to hear that you're leveraging data observability to modernize your data quality so they get better data downstream in terms of the data products, but that we're all using AI in the right way, right? To automate and augment a lot of this great human effort that's been put forth.
Yeah, DNB AI Labs is a great offering where we interact with our customers very directly, and you can bring your data into an environment, work with our AI team, with our DNA team in partnership. And just last week, we also rolled out something called Chat DNB. So very excited about that. Put the same power in the hands of everyone that we've been using and we've been developing internally. And then, of course, we have AI built into lots of our products. We've been, growing both the user interfaces and also the underpinnings of the products. But to your point, it is really important that we're also using that stuff inside. We're using it to make sure that our processes are working better and that we're continuously growing in our ability to monitor the right things in the data quality.
Fabulous, Gabriel. So let's close by maybe offering a few tips to our listeners here. If you were to give some advice from the learnings that you've had at Dun Bradstreet and throughout your career relative to what to do about data quality, how to get people more focused on it and motivated. I love the gamification conversation. What would be sort of just 1, 2, or 3 tips that you would offer?
Sure. One is don't just measure the quality of data. It would be also measure how this quality of data is impacting your customers, including internal customers. So one of the things that we do is we keep track of all incidents and issues, problems, however you want to call it. My most exciting metric is not one of the 65 billion calculations that we do every month. It's actually the measure of what is the proactiveness of our data quality program. And we measure that by the simplest thing. You count how many data quality problems were found by your customers and how many data quality problems were found by your internal framework. And as long as I'm growing that program more and more proactive, then I feel like we're doing what we need to do for our customers. So really thinking about proactiveness. And that's why, again, we're looking to ways to predict based on observing the data, predict problems rather than define the problems ahead of time. Though we will never stop the classical define, measure, improve cycle. So we'll continue to do that. Like you said, gamification is great, but really one of the sort of the quieter factors of that gamification is that you have to define a baseline that you're improving from. And so with that, if you're continuously, this is a problem that we discovered, we were continuously building rules. We were continuously adding more information, and it made it hard to find improvement because we were adding more rules, and we were adding more tricky rules and more complex rules and rules that were intended to find problems. And so it would appear that the data quality was getting worse. But if you take a baseline of a set of rules, measure them at a certain point in time, and just follow those rules, you can see the improvements to those rules.
Well, thank you so much, Gabriel. And it's really amazing how Dun Bradstreet has been a leader for over 100 years, and in terms of thinking about sort of the data products now and higher data quality. And you were very much in the forefront and still are of using data observability. In fact, Gartner calls data observability proactive data quality. So your words obviously made its way into the vernacular of some of the leading research firms. I just want to close by thanking you for coming on the podcast today. I think this topic is hugely insightful, and would love to have further conversations with you about it if you're amenable. But I would thank again Dun Bradstreet for being such an amazing partner, and also for the high quality data that powers the world's economy, if you will, because every single company relies on what you guys deliver. And it's exciting to hear how much you're investing in it and how much you're continuously improving the quality of the data. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Ramon. It's been a real pleasure. And I will offer to any of your listeners, if you would like to reach out to me at Dun Bradstreet, I'd be happy to talk about your data quality framework or how our data quality framework impacts the data you come. So existing customers, prospective customers, anybody who works with data, I'd be happy to take some time and chat with you in more detail.
Wonderful. We'll provide their information, and I'm sure a lot of people will reach out to you. Very generous offer. Thank you again, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks for listening to the Data Forward podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest insider news, be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.